Welcome to your first video for Module 2, Number Sense 2. This is Media Lesson 1A, representing fractions. So at the beginning of your media lesson packet, there's an introduction to what fractions are, and we're going to go over this information before we start the first exercise. So there are many ways to think of a fraction. A fraction can be thought of as one quantity divided by another, written by placing a horizontal bar between the two numbers, such as 1/2 or 1/2. And we're going to look at a few different ways we could say this phrase, or we use words to represent this. 1 is called the numerator of the fraction, and 2 is called the denominator. So notice they have different names, and interchanging them, writing 2/1 would be a different number than writing 1/2. We can also think of fractions as a part compared to a whole, such as 1 out of 2 cookies or 1/2 of the cookies. And in this lesson, we're going to look at a few other ways to think of fractions as well. So there are many ways to think of fractions, and we really want to look at all of them so we can compare and contrast them and have a better understanding of fractions. So just to note that officially, fractions are any numbers that can be written as a over b, or one number over another number. But in this course, we will consider fractions where the numerator and denominator are integers. So these special fractions where the numerator and denominator are both integers are called rational numbers. Since rational numbers are indeed fractions, we will frequently refer to them as fractions instead of rational numbers. So we're actually going to be looking at what we call rational numbers, but they're a type of fraction, so we refer to them as fractions, and that's the word we're going to use. So let's look at our first example. So the language of fractions. Each of the phrases below are one way we may indicate a fraction with words. Rewrite the phrases below in fraction form. So we have these different language representations that are all representing fractions. We're going to write them as a fraction, as a numerator over a denominator, and then we're going to write the corresponding fraction word name. So first we have 20 divided by 6. Okay? So in the past we may have written this as 20 divided by 6. But as a fraction, this means 20 divided by 6. So we can use this fraction bar to think of the word divided. Now let's look at the word name. So this appears as two numbers, and it's two numbers where one is divided by the other. But we can actually think of this as a single number. And the name for this single number is the first number, which is 20, and the second number, written with a THS at the end, so 6. So this is 26ths, and it's kind of hard to hear that TH part. So for the denominator, this is actually going to be the size of our pieces, and we're going to get into this in much more detail, but for now we're just writing the word names. So for the denominator, to see how to write it, you could think of what you might say on a calendar. There's the first day of the month. We usually don't write first, but there's the second, the third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, etc. So in most cases, it's just putting a THS at the end of the word. Now the next one says 8 out of 9. So notice this isn't talking about dividing anything. We have 8 out of 9, which we can also write as 8/9. That's more language that we use with the fraction symbol bar in between. So the top number is 8, and the bottom number is 9, and we'll put THS, so 8/9. Now we have a ratio of 3:2. So this is representing 3/2. And we're going to define all these different concepts in the next video in a lot more detail. And we would write this number as 3/2. Okay, so we could write this as 3 seconds, okay, the first, the second day of the month, but typically you probably know we use the word half a lot, okay, and when we have a denominator of 2, we think of it as a half, and the plural of half is halves. 11 per 5. So 11 per 5. So there we have the word per. So this could be, we'll see, something like 11 miles per 5 hours. So per is another word that indicates fractions. And this would be 11 fifths. And finally, we have 2 for every 7. So maybe you have 2 hot dogs for every 7 cookies you eat. So this would represent the fraction 2 over 7, and the fraction word name is 2 sevenths. So in the next few videos, we're going to discuss all these different types of language and how they're represented in context so we can make more sense of them.